I'm sure many of you all are very active in social media, you would have seen. I'm just quoting this name not because there's a particular reason. Elon Musk takes the IMF data to say, wow, is this true? You know, that kind. I don't remember what exactly he said. Wow, he said, or something else he said. China contributes 26% of growth in GDP, global GDP. India contributes 17%. Together, 43% of global GDP growth comes from these two economies. Did any of you see that tweet? What does that convey? I will say this from my side in the parliament. But India's opposition should also understand that this is the kind of strength that India has acquired now. Next only to China. The gap may be big, 26 and 17. We'll bridge it. But we should have the confidence that together with the big economy, which is just next door, we contribute 43% of global GDP growth. And we are living in that India.
Balancing is a very difficult thing. On the one hand, you want to ensure that the minimum support system that the government has to provide for those who are in desperate need is met. But yet, not all money can just go for that. You need to build the country physically. You need the infrastructure, you need the village roads, you need the hospitals, you also need good schools and so on. And above all, the country's defense cannot be compromised with. So Operation Sindoor actually told you what kind of money spent in the last 10 years has come of help. And I know when I was in defense, bulletproof jackets were not available for our soldiers. They would have a gun in their hand, but they didn't have the bullet which goes into it. The gun se kuch nahi hota, firepower hona hai. So in that sense, you're looking at priorities. You want your nation to be secure. At the same time, you want the farmers to produce enough. And even if they produce, who's going to buy it from them? And if they are bought, they should be bought at a reasonable price. Equally, that price may not be suitable for the market because consumers might say it's too expensive. We'll have to ensure that some kind of a subsidy is provided. So there are conflicting demands. Managing the conflicting demand is the problem which every finance minister faces. You cannot tax every time you want additional resource, but you need money. So these are the kind of things which come every year. But we had a special, unique and once in a century problem of COVID. We had given a promise. Prime Minister was very clear, I don't want 1 rupee tax put on the citizens. But we needed to get vaccine, whether produced in India or imported, but we didn't import, produced in India. And that has to be distributed to all citizens. Life was to be saved. We can't ask a citizen saying, 500 rupiya de do ek injection ke liye. So it was offered muft. Where do I get the money from? So there were times during these last 5-6 years when we had to, without fear or without any hesitation, borrow money and perform. But once we recovered from it and there was a very clear sign of, growth happening, we had to repay the money to get out of debt situation sooner so that our citizens are not burdened. Debt for a government is intergenerational, meaning I borrow today, but I'm not here to pay back. Who pays back? Whatever government whenever they come. And what is government? After all, it's citizens' money that they take and pay. So today what your parents get from the government is paid by the grandchildren. That's no good. You need to make sure the economy functions on its own revenue. So these are conflicting interests with which one has to work. So balancing is important. So my priority, therefore, if growth happens, if good growth happens, the fruits of growth will reach all citizens. And if it reaches all citizens, they have the money to buy, they have the money to spend, and therefore somewhere the revenue will be generated. But if growth doesn't happen and we are stagnating, opportunities for people are not given, so they will be sitting with nothing in their hand. They can't create any demand for me. They can't go to the market, buy a thing, or because they buy the thing, they cannot be somebody who's producing it. And because somebody is not producing, nobody gets a job. It's a cyclical problem. And that is why growth is the primary priority. Sustain it at that level. World's fastest growing economy. We need to be at that level of 7%, 8% growth. So everything that I do will have to be for sustaining that growth.